welcome to Alternative. My name's William. I am back to finish rounding up some albums that I wanted to share my thoughts on. This is part 2. I've got 24 albums from back in January that I want to briefly talk about. I've talked about 12 of them already. I got 12 more to talk about. Let's get into it. It kicks off with Jack the Underdog. Yesterday Forever. Jack the Underdog, you may have caught this guy in a reel on Instagram or TikTok. He's an independent pop punk artist, part of this Riot House collective, I believe, that does all these silly videos. I'd almost call him Gen Z pop punk as well. I'm not even sure if he is quite a Gen Z, but it has that kind of youthful pop punk quality to it, this stuff. It's fun, nothing to take too seriously, nothing too deep here, but this guy is sure establishing a voice for himself. He's quite pleasant to listen to. I really like his delivery, his vocals in general. And while I don't love all of this stuff, pop punk these days in general can be so hard to find stuff that really pushes the genre forward. And some of this stuff I do find is just generic party pop punk music. But there is one song called Lil Me that is an absolute must hear. That is Jack the Underdog at his best. Wickedly infectious song. And if there's one thing I'd recommend off this album, it's that one. Next up, a Florida band called Flipturn with their album Burnout Days. This is their sophomore full-length album, my first album with them. This is some classy indie rock. They have an elegant sound. Very smooth and warm female-led vocals. A nice, mature, alternative sound. Very easy listening. This is the type of music when I listen to, I think, ooh, the critics are gonna love this, but I generally don't agree with what a lot of music critics think is the best. And similarly with this, a lot of the stuff doesn't really hold the hook power for me. But despite the lack of hook power throughout some of these songs, it is still very nice sounding that I find it's pretty easy to sit through this stuff. The opener, Juno, gets it off to a great start. That song definitely holds about the strongest hook power here. Mid-album song Window, a very soft one, that definitely lands a mark on me as well. So overall, really nice sound and a band I'd definitely recommend for the alternative indie fans out there. We've also got a new cover album from Alex Melton, Hypotheticals Volume 5. My first Hypotheticals album from Alex Melton. I've been aware of this guy on YouTube, seeing some of his videos throughout the years, and just in the past year or two, I finally gave him a follow on Spotify, and because he's really worth keeping an eye on. He's done some original stuff as well. This is all covers, though, and it's cool to hear his take on some of these songs. Pinch Me, the Bare Naked Ladies song, I really like what he's done with that one, a much more punk-driven energy to it. He does an interesting spin on What's My Age Again, the Blink-182 song. Definitely takes his own spin on that one, and I find that quite impressive. I will say Real World, the Matchbox 20 cover, I will stick to the original there. The cover he does not add to it for me. He also does Lizzie McAlpine's Ceilings. Hard to butcher that song. It sounds great from him as well. And overall, a really strong set of cover songs here, worth checking out. Okay, we got a new band in my life. They're called Bed with Into Vastness, their latest EP. This is a band from California, alternative rock. Dream punk is a term I've seen associated with them. I love that, dream punk. I think that's a good way to describe their sound. A bit shoegazy, a little grunge even. These songs are kind of messy, a bit too messy for my tastes. They do not focus on big melodic pulls, but they do have a compelling sound. Decent enough energy to this music to keep me listening, and the song Bullet, that one really does deliver a hook that can get stuck in my head. So a really cool new band in my life, and I'm excited to see if they can pull off some more catchy stuff in the future, but regardless, a cool sound. Now, a band you can definitely depend on some catchy material from Grayscale, their new album, The Heart. This is a Philadelphia pop rock band. I've been following them since about 2019. I remember when I discovered them, I thought they were a really great discovery in the pop rock realm. Reminded me of Mayday Parade in a way. You know, it's a clean, powerful pop rock sound. Their vocalist really has a strong voice, and they hit me with a couple of amazing songs. The song Young off of their Nella Vita album, really just a massively uplifting track. And then off of their last album, I believe 2021's Umbra, the song Carolina Skies. Really, really cool song. So two big takeaways from these guys. This new album, it holds up strong, but there's no huge takeaway for me here. They fail to really land that mark on me, but it's still some good old dependable, catchy pop rock music with some feeling. There is plenty of heart to be found in these songs. It's just a shame that, you know, despite some of these qualities that are like, yeah, that's big and inspiring, they just aren't surprising me. There's no big surprise, and that's a shame. Now, an artist that has given me quite the surprise, RØRY, with her album Restoration. This is the debut album from this UK artist, emo pop rock. The thing of note with RØRY is she just turned 40 late last year, and not many artists doing this emo pop rock sound that are breaking into their 40s, especially with a debut album. I was originally a little apprehensive with this stuff, but my goodness, has she won me over. Some of these songs here, some of the singles, notably In the Bible, Blossom, Morality Suicide, and Sorry I'm Late, are all bangers. They are some powerful, catchy songs that make a message and just leave their mark. Also, another song off the album, I believe maybe the featured single with the album's release, Wolves. Very, very strong song. These songs hit hard. She's got something to say, and I'm excited to hear more from her. Next up, we have the New Jersey alt-pop band Young Rising Suns, their EP called Young. They've already released another EP since this. I'll have to share my thoughts on that in another video. Now, I've only known this band for the past couple of years. Their song I Could Die Right Now, ICDRN, from late 2023, knocked me off my feet. It landed in my top 10 songs of the year. Just an absolute comfort song, a song that I could sink into, and I can sink into still. Just wraps me up in its embrace. And when it comes to this polished alt pop sound, I Could Die Right Now did it like nothing else. So darn good. Darn good. They also released an EP just this past fall in 2024, and there's a song off that called Scissors that has just continued to grow on me. It made my top 100 of the year, but if I could go back, I'd put it higher on my top 100 of 2024. Just another captivating, moody alt-pop hit that is so compelling to me and really, really sinks into me and invigorates me more than most of the songs that I have that were on my top 100 of 2024. So now they're back with this EP, Young, and they've got another really great standout here, Famous on the Internet. It's just a very fun, catchy, clever song poking at the social media age, ridiculously infectious. And the other few songs on the EP are solid showings of what makes these guys enjoyable. When it comes to alt-pop music, Young Rising Suns are continuing to grow as one of the leading bands in my life. Now, I've got an album that no one's ever heard of from a band called Narrowcast. It's called Woven in the Wind Chimes. This is the project of Boston artist Ella Meadows. Ella Meadows is a transgender artist formerly known as Joe Boynton, the lead singer from Boston band Transit. You might remember Transit. They have a song, their most popular song, called The Only One. And my God, I love that song. And there were some other songs from them that I really enjoyed. And then they disbanded shortly after that song and that album. And I looked into what happened, and here we are. We've got a new project and a new identity from the former lead singer. And this Narrowcast project, it's much different. This is a experimental, atmospheric kind of stuff. Very slow, spacious. It's pretty, but it is melodically unrewarding. But there is the song Handful of Teeth. That has a more familiar song structure to it. Does pull off quite the enjoyable hook. And overall, despite these songs not really holding much of that melodic substance for me, it is a really cool sound, and I like what they're doing here, and I'm interested to keep an eye on Narrowcast. Now, this was an easy EP to enjoy. The band Pentire with Love on TV. This is some UK indie pop. 6 songs, all pretty darn catchy. The opening title track, Love on TV, is especially fun. If you're into the upbeat, tight, polished indie pop sound, then you're gonna like these guys. Next up, we have some Australian modern pop punk, a band called Down and Out with their Sunk Cost Fallacy EP. They had a song last year, came out early last year, called Livin' the Dream that ended up scraping onto my top 100. Very aggressive, very bleak, but very catchy, and thought it was fitting to squeeze it onto my top 100 last year. Nothing that will be making my top 100 this year from this EP, but it's still a solid showing. You know, they got this pop-leaning production. It's heavy-handed pop punk, but you can feel within their production a very polished sound, big aggressive energy, but they pull off the hooks here. I'd say the single Tombstone is probably the most listener friendly, quite catchy, a bit softer than the rest. So if you're into the pop punk scene and you haven't heard of Down and Out, yeah, get on board. Okay, last couple of albums here. We have Charlie Houston with Big After I Die. This is the debut album from this artist, originally from Toronto. I caught on to Charlie Houston, and I'm sure a lot of people caught onto her this way through ODESZA, the electronic music duo ODESZA. I don't listen to a lot of electronic music, but ODESZA definitely hits the mark for me, and they had her featured on vocals on their song Wide Awake in 2022. It was on my top 100 of the year. Phenomenal song, and it made me interested to check into who Charlie Houston was. And here we are with her debut album. This is some sexy indie music. Very cool, very smooth, very chill. Again, I always find when it comes to this cool, chiller, sexy kind of indie sound, you're sacrificing the big hooks for this cool vibe, and that's fine here. Yep, no massive hooks, but it's a very cool listen, and I'll take it. The opener, Pink Cheetah Print Slip, that one is quite catchy. And throughout, you're going to find some pretty catchy stuff. Spiral, the mid-album single there, slower, but very pleasant. Not exactly the type of music that gets me hooked, but when I do listen to it, it's like, damn, this stuff is cool. So if you like that type of sound, check out Charlie Houston. And finally, we have a band called DWLLRS. Their album, Cameraman. It's the debut album from this California duo. Looks like they've been making some waves, at least on Spotify. I'm seeing we got a song here off the album, Blue Spirits, that has over 24 million streams. So it's done well for them. This is some indie soft pop, and I'm really excited about these guys. I think it was the song I Hate You, You Hate Me that came up on my Discover Weekly in the last several months, and I'll pick that as my favorite off the album. Really good introduction to this band. It has a bit more oomph to it, I'd say, than some of these. It's another band that, you know, they're chill, they're cool, more chill and cool than they are melodically captivating. But they have their charm, and they do have their hooks here. There's some reward to be found in this music. The vocalist really has a unique delivery, I'd say. They're doing a good job at setting themselves apart, and I'm not surprised to see that at least a handful of these songs have done really well for the band. Again, within the alternative indie scene, this is a band you gotta get on top of. So that's gonna wrap it up. That concludes all the albums and EPs I listened to throughout January. Glad to finally shed some thoughts on these guys. I'll have more coming from February, and hopefully I'll keep this up throughout the year. Don't hold me to it. We'll see how I feel, but I'd like to try and be a little more active in talking about the music I'm listening to, and hopefully finding more of a community of like-minded music listeners out there. So thank you so much for checking this video out. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.